Hello, it is Thursday, so I have to go back to work tomorrow. I'm not really getting much accomplished with the Cricut. I did get a little bit of welding done on it. I got my welding cart kind of set up and built, and that's about it, to be honest with you. Working in the garage, it's dark. There's a lot of mud daubers in there buzzing me, so I got to do something about that. I don't know, maybe I'm getting burned out on the job. I don't know. I definitely won't abandon it, but I'm gonna take a break from it for a couple of weeks here. Today, I'm working on the Mazda. So this thing, the plan, I need to get it up and running perfectly good, and I need to start driving it. I need to daily drive this thing for at least a couple months until I'm sure that there aren't any problems with that engine. It doesn't run hot, it doesn't knock, it doesn't use oil, it doesn't smoke, the transmission's good, the clutch is good, all those things. And then once all that's good, then we yank this engine out, yank the engine out of my Courier and swap them. We'll put the tired, wore out engine in this truck, sell it to somebody as a running, driving project, and then I'll have, a 75,000 mile drivetrain in my truck. Somebody could put a V8 in this thing. I mean, hell, I could leave it without an engine, but it's going to be more useful as a running, driving truck. And it's doing fine. I mean, even with the oil coming into the radiator, leaking into the radiator, it does fine. It hasn't gotten hot. It's using oil, but it's not, I don't think it's burning it. I think it's all leaking into the radiator. So, every time you go somewhere, the overflow kind of spits out, a little puddle of oil, and I keep checking the coolant. It's not dropping, and it doesn't seem to be getting more concentrated. I think the oil itself is what's spitting out. But someone's going to have to change that or fix it. So today's job, I'm pulling that carburetor off. This thing runs great, but the last couple times I started it, it was just dumping fuel from up here somewhere. And the choke pull-off doesn't work. The accelerator pump doesn't work. I can drive it with the accelerator pump not working, but with a bad choke pull-off, what I would do is just basically adjust the choke until it doesn't engage. But with no choke and no accelerator pump, this thing is damn near impossible to start. You've got no fuel enrichment to get it started. Once it's hot, it'll probably start up. So I give up. I'm not gonna mess with this carburetor. I hate these carburetors. I've got a couple Webers lying around. I've got an adapter on order. It's a one-piece adapter. I really don't like those two-piece ones that the Courier has. So right now I've already got these nuts pulled off. I gotta pull a little clip out of there, and then that should separate those, and then this should come off. I need to get the linkage off of this carburetor, stuff a rag down in it, and then we've got things we got to do tonight. But that base plate should come in sometime this next week, and then next week I should be able to do this. Alrighty, got the carburetor off. One thing I did notice, that's totally plugged up. That would go to the power valve. That's probably the only reason why it does run decent. Okay. I'm wondering if my fuel leak wasn't that right there, maybe. Okay, so any of you guys who like to mess around with these little Mazda B2000, Mazda B1800s, Ford Couriers, if you have a Ford Courier and you're running a Mazda engine, this is the EGR pipe. That's the EGR valve. This deal here is capped, and it has a slot on the bottom of it to create negative, almost like a vacuum to help draw it in there. But as you can see, how much space it takes up. I couldn't give you a number on what kind of horsepower it might be affecting. I couldn't tell you even how the butt dyno feels about it, but that is definitely a detriment to performance. Now on my other truck, I took all this off and I filled the hole with epoxy putty and then JB Weld. You could tap it and put a plug in there, maybe cut this off, take this nut off down here, pull this off, cut it, weld it up. I don't know, but that's just a quick thing you can do. Maybe not so quick, but something you could do that would definitely help power. But again, I couldn't tell you how much it would help. Alrighty, we're back on the Mazda for today. I've got my carb adapter, I've got the air cleaner. I'm still gonna have to fabricate a throttle linkage, although if I could find the old one I made for the Courier, we'd be a lot better off. However, let me show you where we're at. Okay, at this point, we need to pull these studs out, all 4 of them. The new kit comes with 2 stepped studs, I think for the back here, and then 2 little bolts that, the 2 bolts I think will go in here, and then it has 4 studs of its own. So, yeah, I think that's where we're at on that. I also want to show you some of the differences in the carburetors. So let's get going. Okay, so the old carb's off. Got the studs out of it. Got it cleaned up. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of Scotch-Brite. Same thing with the back side of this. This is our adapter. This is a 1-piece adapter because the 2-piece adapters suck. Every damn one of them I've ever had, I've ever run, has come loose on me. And I'm not the only one who's run into that issue. So this is going to end up going like that. I just want to make sure I'm not going to have to grind that down or anything. I'm not taking off any of that emission stuff. I'm going to leave it all there. Probably disconnected but not removed. So on carburetors. These are your 2 most common conversion carburetors that fit just about everything. 32, 36 millimeter. Performance-wise, they're identical. The DGV, dFv. The DGV, looking at it from the front, has a left side primary. The dFv has a right side primary. The DGV has kind of a rectangular air horn, where the dFv has a diamond-shaped air horn. Overall, the dFv is the better one to get. One, because when you go to junkyards and whatnot, in the 70s you had the Vega, the Chevette, the Pinto, the Capri, the Bobcat, Mustang 2. All these cars used that, or a derivative of that carburetor. As a matter of fact, this one is an Autolite. So this is a Ford. This is off some kind of a Ford product in the mid-70s. You'll see it doesn't have a bunch of crap on it. It's got a bowl vent here, so it would have been mid-70s. It's probably off of my old 75 Pinto. The DGV came factory on some of the Italian cars, Fiats and such, I think. Other than that, I don't know. As far as going to a junkyard and finding a carburetor like this, you're going to find something like that, not something like that. The other problem that you run into. So on this application, you take the DGV, you put it on, and you'll notice it's not even sitting on there straight. Because there's too much stuff in the way. This idle kicker's in the way. Now, this is a true, well, I'll get into the letters here in a minute. They don't matter at this moment. Okay, so this is where it sits. This one is a manual choke, so the automatic choke would be just about touching the valve cover. Trying to get down there to the mixture screws and the idle speed screws is a pain in the ass with all this. Your fuel line is going to have to take a hard bend. you know, its linkage here would have to come way over to the side. It would be a problem. As a matter of fact, let me grab another carburetor if I've got one. No, I don't have one with an automatic choke. Okay, so that's the DGV. This is the DFV. This one needs to be rebuilt desperately. Now, as you'll see, the fuel line lines up much better. This is your choke capsule. You have all this room out here. Your mixture screw, your idle speed screw, everything's easily accessible. Your throttle linkage goes straight on there. So you have all that space there. If you do have to pull the valve cover, it's not a problem. So you're if you have a Ford Courier, of any year, Mazda B series up until 86, or prior to 86, the dFv is the one you want to look for. Just remember, when you're looking at them on eBay, look for the diamond-shaped air horn. Look for the right side throttle shafts. Now, if you're finding one in the junkyard, or you find one like used on Marketplace or something, if you do find one of these old Ford ones, a lot of times the linkage is fixed. So you start getting into the later 70s, into the 80s, you can't change this. You'd have to weld something onto it and get really creative. Now you get into the 80s, your Fox bodies, your Ranger, your Chrysler K-cars would start using it, but the Chrysler started getting really electronic. They would have a box. Yeah, these ones don't have them, but there's a box on the back of them, and yeah, those ones you want to avoid. So on the letters, officially, this carburetor is a DGV. The letters mean something in Italian. I think D means dual, and then the G has something to do with the Venturi, or something like that. And then Venturi, I think, is the V. This one would officially be a dfav, because originally it had a water control choke, so A stands for automatic. Now, if it had an electric choke like this, it would be a dfev, or if that was the case on this one, it'd be a dgav. So, for Courier, for Mazda B1600, B1800, early B2000, try to find a dFv carburetor. And just be mindful of all that stuff I said. The linkage, the choke, all that. Now, if you're putting this carburetor on something else, other things will come to a problem. So, like the Celica has a DGV because the carburetor is on the passenger side of the car. And so all the problems that I mentioned on the Mazda, with everything being up against the valve cover, would have been a problem on this car if I used the dFv. So we used the DGV, and it puts it all to the outside. Although there's a lot more room on this car, but still, those are some of the things you have to be conscious of. Plus, you got to keep in mind which way it turns. Now, you can hook a linkage to the bottom side to make it, pull that way. It'd be counterclockwise. You hook the linkage to the top side. All these things you have to kind of keep in mind. So that would be your lesson on these Weber sequential carburetors, for whatever you're using them on, or especially these things. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so here we have the plate. We have some destructions. We have gaskets. Yes, that's right. It's gonna end up going get this all set up. Okay, I got the adapter on. I used red Loctite. I'm having the damn thing come loose again. And it looks like pretty much everything's going to be okay, except I'm going to have to do some work on this throttle linkage. I wish I could find the one up at the Courier. I'm going to have to extend it and rotate it slightly. Looks like it needs to be pushed. Yeah. So right now I need to tighten up the nuts holding the carburetor down. And then I should be able to drop a battery in it. It's a little bit low on oil. Get some gas in it, see if it'll start, run. And then move on to the next step, getting that throttle linkage hooked up and then getting the air cleaner on. These are the factory Ford little dealios here. And they're a pain in the ass. I gotta pull the top of the carburetor off to get that one off, or cut it. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so carburetor's mounted, tightened down. Fuel line's hooked up. The vacuum advance for the distributor's hooked up. The air cleaner's just kind of sitting on there because I'm going to have to get, screws to hold it down. I don't have any right now. I don't have the throttle linkage hooked up. We'll have to work on that later. But I think we're ready to fire it. At least see if it'll fire. Yeah. You put a little bit of oil in it first, and then we'll go in there and turn the key, put a battery in it. We'll go in there and turn the key and find out what happens. Alrighty. We got everything hooked up. Battery, oil, found the keys. We're gonna give this a shot. Looks like my fuel line isn't doing real well. Let's see if it'll start it. That's the pulse air injection for the smog pump. need to get a timing light on this and double check that. Set really lean. The idle speed was set very high. So we were actually running in the advanced circuit. I'm going to have to replace this fuel hose. You can see it's kind of cracking. Maybe it wasn't set so lean. Wires have been chewed on by rats. They're going to need to be replaced. Regular tune-up stuff probably needs to be done as well. We still got to get the throttle linkage hooked up, and we're still dripping gas, so we need to get that fuel hose replaced. Probably go ahead and top that arm off right now. I got to lengthen it, and then we can get that hooked up. Should have some fuel hose. And then we can probably clean this up real quick and take it for its first run. So we'll be back at you here in a little bit. Okay, we've got a new fuel hose there. No leaks. Linkage is hooked up. Hey, Jinxie Kitty. We're going to give it a try. You don't want to be under there, Bubba. Sounds pretty damn good to me. pedal is really stiff. There's why. Let me show you. Okay, so here's the problem. Let's see. Can I get a better shot of it? I had to shut it off because it was just too damn loud. It's not a very good angle. There we go. Okay, so you'll see that angle right there. It's too flat. So it has to overcome the top center of it and push that down around. I didn't get quite enough angle in it. I don't know. I don't know what can be done. Maybe if I fix the sloppiness in the shaft, I can get it down like that. Maybe there's a spring on the gas pedal. Take that off. I should just let it hang down so it's already going in the right direction. Yeah, see, there's a spring right there. I'm gonna pop that off real quick. Okay, I popped the spring off. The pedal already feels better. And the angle, there we go. Got a much better angle there now. Start to ride up. Gas gauge doesn't work, but I'm thinking it's because of all the caca that was in the tank, that it might be stuck at the bottom of the tank. Maybe the float's bad. I don't think it's the gauge. It's still pretty stiff. Idle's not quite as smooth as I normally would like it. That's weird. Got a bulb out or something. Gauge is working, lights are working, radio works, but the speakers are short. That's dirty. Old technology.
Serving Northwest Oklahoma, 1438 and 99.5 FM.
I guess I better keep that off or I might get dinged. Okay, hey, look at that. I decided it wanted to start working. It's all rotten and crumbly. brakes need to be bled. Or it may need a master cylinder, I don't know. Oh, vacuum leak. There we go. That'll take care of the idle a bit. Gonna have to go through here and get rid of a bunch of these vacuum lines. Be nice if I could hook that up for the air conditioning. Well, anyway, that's it for tonight on this. I've got other things I can jump over on real quick for a little bit. Tomorrow we'll get back on it and I'll figure out how to attach that. Once that's attached, clean all this mess up here, all the tools and stuff, and go take it for a ride. Let's see just how good or bad it's doing. Alrighty. You guys then. So we are going back to Washington. We are driving the Highlander, the whole family, and Christy and Luke are going to stay there a couple weeks, I think, and then she's coming back. I'm going to get out there and then a day or two later jump in Grandpa's 67 C10 and drive it back here. Hop on a plane a day or two later and get back out to Washington, and then I'm able to transfer to a store out there and work. And on my time off, I've got to put the Dodge together. I've got to put my 61 Dodge together. So I've got basically 2 months that I'm transferring, and I have to have this done. Hopefully I'll have it done before then, and then drive the Dodge back out here, and then I'm done with Washington. I won't ever have to go back to Washington, except maybe to visit my in-laws. So that is the plan here. I'm leaving, the 4th or the 5th, actually. We'll be driving out there, so I won't be back until August. So there will definitely be content. Obviously I won't be working on the crickets, but they'll be waiting for me when I get back. So just keep your eyes open, keep your eyes open on the channel here, watch for what's coming. I don't think I've ever done a true episode on Grandpa's truck, and I don't think I've done an episode on my Dodge either, so those will definitely be coming, along with all the swap. So on my Dodge, it's a 61 Dodge D300 dually. Poly 318, cast iron, torque flight, 488, push button. And the engine runs great, but it uses a ton of oil. Like the night I drove it home, I drove it about 150 miles and it used 4 quarts of oil, which is horrible. I used it once to tow a friend of mine's car, and we're talking about a 50, maybe 60 mile round trip. It used 4 quarts of oil and it just dusted the entire trip. It was under load. When I drove it home, it was empty. I was driving on the freeway at constant speed. It's old. It doesn't have a PCV system. It has a draft tube, and the end of the draft tube, I'm told, looks like a steam cleaner going down the road. Crap ton of blow by, rings are done, but it runs great. The transmission, on the other hand, it worked fine. I went through it, checked the filter and everything. There wasn't any mud down in it. I adjusted the bands. Everything was great. And one day I moved it. I drove it forward down kind of a little hill to mow. So I mowed where the truck was, and when I went to back it back up, I had no reverse. And so I just I revved the crap out of it, and then you could feel it. It's like the pump lost prime or the pump lost pressure, because as I revved it up, then it went into reverse and it moved. And I did this about twice. And the fluid level was fine, by the way. I checked that first. And I got the truck moved, and then the next time I went to move it in reverse, nothing. I can't get the truck to move in reverse at all. When you push the reverse button, you can feel the RPMs drop. You can see them drop on the tach. but it won't move. So when we sold the house and I went to drive the truck to the in-laws house, I got out on the road and I noticed second gear felt a little soft and third gear just went away. There was no third gear. And so by the time I got it back home, second gear was about gone as well. So I don't know what happened to the transmission, but it's just dying. So that's the big thing that's wrong with it. Plus it's got 6-lug wheels on a really weird 6-lug pattern with lock ring rims. But people call them split rims. They're not split rims, but people freak out about them. No tire shop will touch them. The tires are probably 40 or 50 years old. They're rotten as hell. They hold air, but they're rotten. The brakes need work. The master cylinder was bad, so I went ahead and swapped it over to the dual circuit, which I plugged off the rear circuit and ran it straight into the front circuit. And the brakes work, but not very well. The booster might even be bad because I went ahead and put a booster on it. So there's those couple issues to deal with. I've got my Holmes wrecker body that needs to be put on. That's going to be hell. I had a Winnebago that I stripped for parts. And so that Winnebago chassis will give me a LA318, a 727 transmission, Dana 60 rear with 488 gears, and disc brake front axle. It'll also give me power steering, but I won't be able to use it as is. I'll have to make a bunch of modifications, so I'm not going to worry about that. It'll also give me a 35-gallon gas tank, and all that's going to go into the truck. The truck has, the Poly 318, the cast iron 488. It has a Dana 70 with 488 gears, and it did have a Midland hydrovac unit, which has been bypassed. I don't know how long ago, a long time ago. And no power steering. So basically, the cab body, the body of the pickup and the 61 frame are the only parts that I'm really using. Everything else is going to be this Winnebago thing. As a matter of fact, if the Winnebago would have had a normal wheelbase or even a frame long enough to cut, I would have just dropped my cab on its frame. But it was a Brave with a really short wheelbase, and so the back wheels would have been up against the back of the cab, and it's just no, we're not going to do that. So that's the plan for when I go back to Washington. I'll keep you guys informed. We'll have some video to watch, but it only leaves about another week or so before we go. So today we're working on the Mazda.